Yeah.
As much as there's people in this room that just want to shut down short-term rental properties completely, I know long-term for our economy and our tax base, it's not the best thing.
This is all on video. Can you see why they have glitches all the time? He's changing behaviors. Not going to do what everybody else is doing, like Philadelphia or Chicago or New York. He's not going to do that stuff that has been proven to work to get short-term rentals under control. And nobody's against short-term rentals. What people don't like is unregulated, crazy-ass rules for short-term rentals. You're ruining it for great operators. But Mayor Sera Brigantine continues to blow smoke up your skirt.
So, and that's why I said I know that people are really hung up on this idea that if you had a longer night minimum, it would change it. I think in order to really have an impact, you need to have a 15. And I would tell you, I don't think there's support to go there. I think that anywhere between 2 and 7 doesn't make a difference. Changing that behavior, putting an end to that.
He says these restrictions will have no effect. Let's go with a 15. That's the only way it's going to work. No, 7s. A 7-night rental minimum is common everywhere. That's the new common standard. It's almost like Brigantine's in a freaking bubble.
So, and that's why I said I know that people are really hung up on this idea that if you had a longer night minimum, it would change it. I think in order to really have an impact, you need to have a 15.
It's all about emotion for Brigantine's first openly woke mayor. It's about emotion. He's going to control behavior. He's not going to go with what works and has been established as working. 7-night rental minimum. Our fearless leader, Sera, the mayor of Brigantine, he gushes about Mayor Lance Landgraf. He's the mayor of Ventnor, saying, Lance Landgraf, the mayor of Ventnor, he makes sure you got to have a contact person in the city of Ventnor so they can get there right away and solve the problem. Good friend, Mayor Sera Brigantine.
The current regulation now states that you have to have a representative within Atlantic County. That is current regulation. So if you don't have that, you're actually operating non-compliant with what our law. The only change we made is now that that person has to be available 24/7 and responsive to the property within 2 hours of being called. And we've seen this, and a good example is in Ventnor. Ventnor actually makes it that you have to have a manager within Ventnor itself. You have to be there available 24/7, and you have to respond right away, because if there's issues, then you or your representative need to be also involved in dealing with those right away. It was actually the recommendation of our attorney to say, to make it more fair for people, you should keep at least a little bit more feasible for people to find someone they have or someone they trust, but you need to have a responsible agent. And I will tell you, speaking with Mayor Landgraf, he said this summer, because they've had local management of those properties, a lot of their complaints have gone down.
He's showing all the examples that in Ventnor, they're doing it the right way. Municipal malfeasance, the corruption at the local level, especially in the Jersey Shore towns, where there's so few voters. There's no need to worry because we got a crew of people that are going to vote us in. You're chasing families away. He knows it's happening. People are losing their homes. It's so disruptive, says Mayor Sera.
People are losing their homes over this. Like, I want you to understand, people are losing their homes over this. Like, I want you to understand, like, people are coming in and you're renting these properties. It is so disruptive that people are being driven out of their homes.
This is going to be really bad. It's going to be bloody. You're going to lose all your money. You're going to hate me. We're going to do it anyway. Nobody wants to say anything. We know why he's doing what he's doing. There's financial and developer pressure out the wazoo.
People are losing their homes over this. Like, I want you to understand, like, people are coming in and you're renting these properties. It is so disruptive that people are being driven out of their homes.
But he's going to change the behavior. You have to have all these violations. They have to be substantiated before they're real, before they get in front of a judge. And who actually is going to be the traffic cop? You're a nuisance property. You're a good property. You're fine. It can be our good friend Tiger Platt of Absecon, the city manager, with no skin in the game. But, keep doing what you're doing. Because I know all your realtors, all your real estate people are disclosing that you're no longer possibly going to buy into a residential neighborhood. You're going to buy into a miniature motel zone, island-wide, everywhere. It's like a snowball. It's like a domino effect. People are selling their homes Mayor Sera is admitting it. People are saying, I can't take it anymore. Retirees we see posting online, reconsidering Brigantine. They're afraid they're going to plunk down $1.5 million on a beautiful home. They just weren't told that, oh, by the way, Brigantine just changed the ordinance. Sky's the limit with building McMansions, rentals anytime, barbecues, backyard parties, bachelorette parties, 20 bedrooms. I don't know. That's what's happening. They can't take it anymore. And he admits it, but he's still pushing it through. And nobody in the city, nobody at city council, and nobody in the audience, the residents, you're all sitting there. Oh, he's such a nice man. He's going to, he's going to change Brigantine in a major way. I'm not saying it's bad. It's happening.
One of the things that I keep hearing more and more from people is that they're at the point where they want to sell their homes. They just want to walk away because they can't take it anymore.
See, Vince likes to tell the truth. He feels like from his heart. Yeah, he's kind of woke. That's where we're getting some comments. He's kind of getting squishy. It's bad for Brigantine, Vince Sera says, this whole short-term rental thing and how things are taken off and unrestricted craziness. It's bad for the economy, bad for the tax base. Is that right, Vince?
As much as there's people in this room that just want to shut down short-term rental properties completely, I know, and I'll put this on myself, I know long-term for our economy and our tax base, it's not the best thing.
If he was the head of a private company or a publicly held company, a stock-driven company, they would fire his ass right now for saying that. I know it's going to destroy what is most important to us, but we're going to go for it anyway. Yeah.
As much as there's people in this room that just want to shut down short-term rental properties completely, I know, and I'll put this on myself, I know long-term for our economy and our tax base, it's not the best thing.
This is all on video. Can you see why they have glitches all the time? He's changing behaviors. Not going to do what everybody else is doing, like Philadelphia or Chicago or New York. He's not going to do that stuff that has been proven to work to get short-term rentals under control. And nobody's against short-term rentals. What people don't like is unregulated, crazy-ass rules for short-term rentals. You're ruining it for great operators, Mayor Sera. You spent a lot of time with Mayor Lance Landgraf of Ventnor, who's doing a much better job under the same pressure. So these are some other slides. It's a business operation, these short-term rentals. In a residential zone, just ask the IRS, right? Enforcement's going to be almost, yeah, right. Absentee landlords is going to be a big problem. The fire official, Mr. Murray, he's the guy in charge of the rentals. How come he's never been to a meeting? The fire official, he's in charge of rentals, keeping an eye on it. He should know more about Brigantine rentals than anybody. Has he been to any one of the council meetings? No. How come? Because he knows everything about this stuff and they want him to keep his mouth shut. They really do. Jack Murray, smart guy, begging for more help. They don't give it to him. They kept him out of the meetings. There's a lot of planning board conflicts probably. And 1 and 2 bedrooms, let me tell you, 1 and 2 bedrooms can be a problem. And Mayor Vince Sera, he talked about some new mayor. Matter of fact, somebody bought a house a few houses away from him where Mayor Vince lives. He's very upset. Vince, tell us what happened.
There was a house that sold 3 houses down for me, and sold 3 houses down for me. I kept praying that a short-term rental owner wouldn't go in there. I was very happy to meet my new neighbors, and even though they're part-time residents, it's them, it's their family, they're beautiful people. But I'll tell you, even for me, scared to death. Councilman Lettieri dealt with the same thing on his street. And it took us months to shut that property down.
But because Vince was able to pray, that's how he got this short-term reprieve. See, Vince doesn't go with the hard and fast stuff like restrictions on the short-term rental minimums, none of that, or registration and inspection and all that. No, Vince goes with the softer things that can't be controlled. I prayed that they weren't going to turn it into a short-term rental, but they can do it next week or next month or next year. Jesus. Oh, my God. It's not his fault. It's everybody's fault. This guy is talking out of his you-know-what.
There was a house that sold 3 houses down for me, and sold 3 houses down for me. I kept praying that a short-term rental owner wouldn't go in there. I was very happy to meet my new neighbors, and even though they're part-time residents, it's them, it's their family, they're beautiful people. But I'll tell you, even for me, scared to death. Councilman Lettieri dealt with the same thing on his street, and it took us months to shut that property down.
The beautiful people, the beautiful people. He's praying. Talk about soft. This guy. Oy vey. Sturad. Oh, the subleasing. How are you going to keep track of subleases? That's not going to happen. And LLCs. Are they going to release all the names of the people behind the LLC? I bet they won't. You don't want to know who's a part of these LLCs. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. Because with these LLCs, there's protection. Who are you going to sue? Imagine you have your house. It's a family home. You've had it for decades in Brigantine. And right next to you, on this side, on that side, are McMansions, these behemoths. Sleeps 29, pool in the back, really horrible parking. For some reason, people park everywhere, but they don't get tickets. Imagine living next to that. Then there's some problems with fireworks. Some damage occurs. Who do you sue? You can't sue the owner of the property because they're probably protected somewhat behind an LLC to a certain extent, right?
I say yes, I agree 100%, especially because with short-term rentals, we really don't have any idea who these people are that come in for a short-term rental, where they're coming from. Unlike a yearly rental, it's a big difference. So,
because it's bad. So here's a slide called Ask an Attorney. Considering becoming an Airbnb host, keep these points in mind. This is an article from just a couple days ago. Consider the type of insurance you have on the property. Hey, is Jack Murray and Tiger, are they tracking all this stuff? Could you imagine if the property next to you wasn't really up to snuff in terms of safety and registrations and had all the right insurance? You think they're doing that? Hell no. Consider the type of insurance you have on the property. Depending on the policy you have, there might be limitations or exclusions associated with renting the property out. If you have a homeowner's policy, it might not cover claims that arise from commercial use of the property. And it's commercial use, right? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Is Tiger and Jack Murray going to check all this stuff? No matter what type of policy you have, consider getting an additional umbrella policy to cover the property and the liability arising out of the rental. Umbrella policies will cover claims that are in excess. They're going to cover claims that are in excess of the liability limits of your property's policy. If you are underinsured, it's possible for the injured renter to come after your personal assets. I'm telling you, there's all kinds of stuff that's not being handled properly in Brigantine. And it's not just, it's parking's a problem and there's a lot of noise. That's an issue. There's a lot of other stuff going on. Fluctuations in valuations. People getting money based on projected income from these Airbnb arbitrage third-party people coming in saying, I'll rent your place out. If you see our fearless leaders, you should say hi to them over the next few days. Don't wait till Wednesday night for your 3 minutes in front of the microphone with public comment. They don't care. Limit your liability. For the reasons discussed above, consider creating an LLC to hold the property and interface with renters. If done correctly, utilizing the LLC, the Limited Liability Corporation, to operate the rental business would ensure that you would not be personally liable to any renter or injured party. You have a big, giant party house next to you, an animal house. Parties, bachelor parties, everything. Right next to you. What if something bad happens? Who are you going to sue? Who are you going to sue? A lot of LLCs. Ask when you get a chance. See Tiger. Ask him, or maybe Mayor. Say, hey, can you let us know who are behind these LLCs? That's going to be a great list. It's like the laptop from hell.
We need the police to be engaged. We're also going to have, and I think we should have our code officials and some of our employees who deal with this working on the weekends, addressing these issues when they're happening. Part of what I think we need too is people working on the weekends. A lot of the issues and problems are happening on the weekends, and we do need code enforcement people or our inspectors that are able to go out and address these issues while they're happening.
They're coming to the revelation that, because of this kind of stuff, the short-term rental crazy stuff happens, the violations happen on the weekends. Wouldn't you have some people in the Brigantine City Hall Department of Rentals, of short-term management be on duty? Of course not. And nobody says anything. I'm not blaming the council members. I'm blaming the residents of Brigantine, the taxpayers, man. You're getting taken for a ride. They're finally saying, let's get some people on the weekends.
We need the police to be engaged. We're also going to have, and I think we should have our code officials and some of our employees who deal with this working on the weekends, addressing these issues when they're happening.
I feel bad for people that are in the middle of a contract or they were never told this. That's why I'm bringing up the word disclosure. Your realtor connections got to keep you up to speed on this major changing of zones in Brigantine. That's a big deal. This is commercialization of quiet neighborhoods. Nobody's against short-term rentals, but what we do despise is mismanagement of this industry, which could be huge and helpful. But these guys are effing it up. There is no trust with these small towns that have problems of being transparent. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing.
What is the actual definition of resort house? Let's hear from, go to our city manager.
Mayor, so I will agree the resort house was a little confusing for me as well, and I spent a lot of time sitting with our fire official asking for clarification, Ms. Phillips, because I was a little confused by it as well.
But he literally says he doesn't know what a resort house is. This whole thing revolves around that stupid phrase, resort house. He should be an expert at that definition. It's shocking. Wait, let me one more time.
What is the actual definition of resort house? Let's hear from, go to our city manager.
Mayor, so I will agree the resort house was a little confusing for me as well, and I spent a lot of time sitting with our fire official.
That's Jack Murray. He's the expert at all this stuff. Where the hell is he? Jack, just show up and speak. You should get up on that microphone, Mr. Jack Murray, and go, ladies and gentlemen of Brigantine, I deeply apologize for the complete effery that the people behind me are casting upon you. And I denounce the mayor and Tiger's plan to destroy family-focused Brigantine. Something like that. Do you believe Tiger? I'm telling you. And you let him get away with it. Right, Tigger?
What is the actual definition of resort house? Let's hear from, go to our city manager.
Mayor, so I will agree the resort house was a little confusing for me as well, and I spent a lot of time sitting with our fire official asking for clarification.
Spent a lot of time with our fire official asking for clarification. So, I mean, he has the answers. Is that what you're saying, Tiger? How come he hasn't chimed in on any of this stuff? How come he wasn't on the short-term rental committee? Nobody brings it up. So you're going to see the valuations go up in Brigantine and take a fall when everybody's underwater. And there's too many short-term rentals available. It's a saturation. Everyone's going to race to the bottom. Very few restrictions, almost zero enforcement. And very selective enforcement, too, by our good friend Tiger Platt.
What is the actual...
selective enforcement, courtesy of Brigantine's Tigger Platt. Oh, so do you know who is on the planning board? It's always mentioned. Well, the planning board, they deal with zoning and planning and all that. This goes here, that goes there. Variances and all that. They're supposed to look out for the future of a town. But in many cases, planning boards turn into these, okay, you can reduce the amount of setback. Yeah, you can build that here. Don't worry about the sunlight. Don't worry about parking in and out. Don't worry about anything. You want 10 bedrooms? Well, you're not allowed to really rent to a lot of people. Should we limit the amount of bedrooms that are being built with these new homes. Think about that. So who is on the planning board? Mayor Vince Sera. It's a very powerful position. He picks the planning board. So really, Vince is the king of Brigantine, which is a good thing to be, the king of Brigantine. So Vince is the king of mayor of the Brigantine Planning Board. Paul Lettieri, our good friend, our paisan. Paul, I'm counting on you, man. You got to break away. Paul Lettieri, he's on the planning board. Maria Sacco Handels, very lovely person. She's a realtor, I think, and a very good one at that. She's on the planning board. Ask Maria about stuff like this. Say, Maria, is this Brigantine Now stuff a bunch of you-know-what? She'll say, yes, he's very disturbing, but yes, everything he's saying is true. Right, Maria? So this is all the planning board. These are the people that are okay with what's going on. Chaser Gaffney, a local businessman. I think he's a developer too, but Chaser is a good guy and a go-getter, an up-and-comer. Mike Brindisi, he's a builder. I think he's the chairman, if I'm not mistaken, of the planning board. Now, it's not a bad thing to have realtors and builders on a planning board committee, but you got to always realize sometimes you have to recuse yourself. Are they all voting the same way? Especially if Vince is in charge of getting rid of you if he doesn't like the way you're voting. You know? Hans, I hope I didn't misspell that. Hans Jacquet, the solicitor, I guess, the solicitor of Brigantine's on the planning board. Cormac Morrissey, the engineer, he's on it. So you can see that this is not really a good, wide collection of people to give input on the planning board decisions. It should be a greater representation of all different types of people and buildings and situations to be on the planning board, but nah. Lance Landgraf, he's a planner for Brigantine. He's also the mayor of Ventnor. He's also a head of planning and development for the CRDA. Does a great job. And you got to watch the old videos of Lance Landgraf and Ventnor dealing with the short-term rental thing. Everybody spoke. All the councilmen, the mayor, the city manager, the business admin, the police, everybody chimed in Ventnor. People were allowed to call in on Zoom so they could watch it live on video and streaming, and they could actually do a Zoom chat and ask questions. It was tough. Lance was under a lot of pressure. They should have done 5 or 7, but they went back to 3, but they did something. They also hired an outsider to scan for people trying to scam the system. They hired some kind of software company to scan people trying to rent out their place without being properly registered. Ventnor did it right. And Mr. Sera should have paid attention. But I'm sure Lance gave him recommendations, but didn't say anything. Said, all right, knock yourself out. Really. The Kabbalah, she's the secretary. Ralph Palatucci, Dory Herndon, Frank Alberti, and Trevor Cohen. That's your planning board. I'm assuming I don't know, do we see the votes of which way they vote? Can you see why Brigantine does not live stream or record planning board meetings? That's where all the action is. I always tell people, planning board, you got to start, it's a hell with the council meetings and the commissioner meetings. Planning board, that's where the real action is, not in this monkey business with the commissioners. The commissioners are at the end of the process. It's the planning and zoning people. They're really driving the direction of Brigantine because they should be, as they create these new ordinances. Why do you need to build 9 and 10 bedrooms? Because they want to turn it into an Airbnb. And I'm not against Airbnb. I'm just saying you can't let it go crazy and let it just go unrestricted, while at the same time completely BSing people who have lived there for decades and for generations, who have homes that are getting pushed out. Or they're going to say, I got to get out while the getting's good. And that large group of people that need long-term or annual rentals. You're killing that, Vince. Just make sure those realtors are disclosing everything that's going. This is a major change. Can you really identify that neighborhood, that residential neighborhood, as a residential neighborhood? Or is it mixed use? I'm okay with mixed use, putting these Airbnbs in mixed use neighborhoods. That's where you have commercial or retail in addition to residential. Nah, they put it right in the middle. Big buses pulling up. Big van shows up, streamers, all kinds. It's DJ Mike Reardon setting up for the night. I want to congratulate John Doring. He's this month's Hall of Shame candidate. He won because he has failed consistently week after week after week, can't keep the live internet streams of the city council meetings intact. He's keeping the second homeowners in the dark. He's getting a double thumbs up and a free pizza pie from his good friend Tiger Platt for not doing a good job keeping second homeowners in the loop. Employee Failure Hall of Shame. John Doring. Congratulations, John. You worked hard at that, man. You've been doing it for a long time. Can't even figure out a way of letting all the taxpayers watch these meetings. They have good video now, but there's always a glitch. And it's not a glitch. They're doing it on purpose. Not having a public comment microphone on. Previous week, it was echo. And John Doring, the IT guy, just sits there. His job is to monitor it. And he sees a problem, you can fix it, troubleshoot it. That's what they do in Ventnor. If there's a problem, they troubleshoot it and get it fixed in like 30 seconds. I wish you well, everybody. Stay tuned. Go to Brigantine now.